right, I'm gonna preach this sermon in 30 minutes. Do you believe me? 2 people believe me. That's okay. I'll take that. All right, go with me to Samuel, the book of Samuel, chapter 1. And we're going to start reading in verse 4. I'm going to preach to all the fixers out there. I titled this message, Fishers, not Fixers. That you are called to be a fisher, not a fisher, not a... That's right. That's right. That's what Jesus calls you to do. All right, go to 1 Samuel chapter 1. This is the story of a man by the name of Elkanah. And he had 2 wives. And one of them, her name was Hannah. And his one wife, Peninnah, had a bunch of children. And Hannah had no children. And this is a story of the agony of what Hannah is dealing with, the emptiness that she has in her life, and also the frustration that Elkanah is going through, having a wife that has a struggle, a problem that he cannot do anything about. And I'm going to start in verse 4. And it says, and whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he would give a double portion. Another translation says the choice meat, the prime of the meat, the best, the filet, the prime rib, the Ruth Chris steak would go to Hannah, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival, that says her rival. Women, you never rival over men, ever, right? That never, ever happens, right? What is it? No. Preaching the truth, okay? And her rival also provoked her severely. You ladies, you don't ever provoke anyone or you know, jab at them every now and again because maybe you're a little jealous of this or that. Nah. Not in this church. Provoked her severely to make her miserable because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year when she went up to the house of the Lord that she provoked her. Therefore she wept. Hannah wept bitterly and did not eat. And then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart so grieved? Am I not better to you? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? And then go with me to Mathew chapter 4 and verse 17. This is Jesus. And he says, from that time Jesus began to preach and say, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting their nets into the sea. And they were fishermen. And he said, follow me, and I will make you fixers. Fixers. Say what? Fishers. Fishers of men. Turn to the person next to you and say, you are not a good fixer of men. Or women, for that matter. Me, personally, I am not a good fixer of household appliances. And I guess for a man, that could be a little embarrassing to actually confess, because we're supposed to be great fixers, handyman, like something breaks around the house, like I got this. And I think that there is something in men that when something breaks in the house, even though you probably don't know what you're doing, you probably don't have the right tools. I saw a YouTube video one time, I got this. And I remember it was a couple years ago, our dishwasher broke. I don't know how it broke. Probably one of the kids stuck like a knife like somewhere that shouldn't have been stuck in the dishwasher, and the thing was flooding all over the place. And Diamond says, should we call a plumber? I said, nah, I got this. Let me YouTube how to fix a dishwasher. And I got my paws in that dishwasher, and about maybe 2 hours later, the whole floor's soaking wet. I'm soaking wet. I'm cursing like a sailor. No, I'm just kidding. No. I'm frustrated like this, just can be. Yelling at the kids, Shooter, why did you do this? And then finally, we had to end up calling the plumber. And he came and he's like, if you didn't do anything, it would only been like $50 of work. But now, since you Tim the Toolman Taylor, everyone freaks out. Remember, he put the belt on, everyone be like, no, please, don't fix anything. And that was me. I made the situation a lot worse than it actually was to begin with. I am so glad that God calls us to be fishers of men and not fixers of men. Because a lot of us, a lot of you people, a lot of me people, we try and fix others. We think that we're the solution to our spouse's issues and emptiness and struggles. We think that we're the answer for our boss's issues and struggles. That we could be the one to fix somebody who is broken. But we are not ever called to be fixers. We are called to be fishers of men. And as you read this story, this woman, Elkanah, she had an issue. And her husband thought that he would be the one to be able to fix it. Like us husbands, we are. It's like in us. Like we want to be able to fix everything. And he sees his wife who's in distress and she's crying and she's weeping and she's not eating. And Elkanah's like, I can fix your problem. But what happens is we get so frustrated because we can't fix people. And so we get frustrated because what we do doesn't help the cause. And so we end up getting frustrated and angry at the other person because they're not receiving what we're trying to give them, but they don't need what we're trying to give them. So that's who I want to talk to first. I want to talk to all the Elkanahs in the church who are trying to fix other people. And you're getting frustrated because you're not being successful in fixing your children or your grandchildren or your spouse or your grandkids. And you feel like you're the one who's failing because they're not receiving what you're speaking into their life and the advice that you're giving them. And you're frustrated and you're angry. That's who I want to talk to first. Then I want to talk to the Hannahs in the house. Because I got a feeling that there are some broken-hearted Hannahs in the church this morning. That you have so much to be thankful for. God has blessed you with so much in your life and in your family and with your job, and yet all you can focus on is that one thing that you do not have. That one barren place in your life that is dry and empty, and you are in distress and you're broken, and no amount of love that anybody else wants to pour on you can even be received because you are so empty about that one thing that is not in your life that maybe somebody else has that you desire. And so you are broken this morning. So I want to talk to the Elkanahs and the Hannahs. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, we'll probably be in our life in both of those positions. Amen. Where you're an Elkanah and you feel like, and this is part of a marriage, just being honest, like there's something in us where we feel like we have to fix our spouse. Okay? For me, I remember when we first got married, like my wife would be, upset or she'd be struggling with something. And I would feel like that was a failure on my part. Like the reason that she's not happy, the reason that she's upset is an indication of my failure. And so many people are frustrated in marriages because their spouse is not getting any better. They're not receiving the love and the encouragement that you're giving them. And you're frustrated because you can't fix a relationship. You can't fix a person. You can't fix a spouse. You can't fix a drug addict. You can't fix someone who is broken on the inside because what you have, they do not need. But yet we get so frustrated because we feel like they're not receiving what I'm giving. Nobody appreciates Mom. Nobody appreciates me. Nobody appreciates what I'm doing. Look, they still are upset and they don't ever give me a thankful heart for what I'm doing. And I feel frustrated because I'm trying to fix something that I was never meant to fix. Any fixers in the house this morning? Elkanah was doing everything that he could within himself to try and love his wife, to try and be there for his wife, to try and to help his wife as she is in distress, and yet none of it is being received. That is so frustrating as a person. When you're pouring yourself out into somebody, into a relationship, into a broken person, and yet they are worse off than when you first met them, and you end up getting frustrated and angry at them because they're not receiving what you're trying to pour into them. And you're frustrated. Like, I'm not very good at fixing things. But I pretty much dedicated my life to spiritually trying to fix other people. And people that come in this church, the best that I know how, with all that is within me, with my preparation, with my creativity, with my enthusiasm, everything that I have. And I'll tell you, one of the most frustrating things is when you pour into somebody for a year, for 2 years. They've sat under your teaching and they've heard the sermons, and that you've prayed with them and you've counseled them and you've met with them and you've cried with them. And then they go out and do the antithesis of everything that you have been preaching, and you look at yourself like you're the failure. It's on me because I was supposed to fix that person, and now they ran out on their family and they ran out of this church, and now they're living like a heathen, and yet I was the one that was called to minister. That is on me. It hurts. It's frustrating. Frustrating when I see on Facebook some of y'all putting some crazy stuff down. Like, were they even paying attention on Sunday? Make you want to scream. Mathew, what are you doing? Realize everybody sees that? Don't hit send. Just write it down and throw it away. Release it, you know? God. People are crazy, man. It's frustrating, you know? But what Elkanah says, aren't I enough for you? Look at everything I've given you. But this is what I learned. This is what freed me up. It's not always about me. It's not always about me and me not doing a good job and me not saying the right things and me not loving that person enough, me not doing the right things to fix that person. It's not about me. We get frustrated at parenting or trying to be a good spouse or trying to be a good friend, and we get frustrated because we make it all about us. We think we're the ones that have to do all of the heavy lifting, that it's all on us, but it's not about you. And Elkanah is frustrated because he's saying, I took you to Ruth Chris, honey. I took you to Tonka. I took you to get the best steak on the planet, and you're still upset and you're still frustrated. But what he doesn't understand is Hannah doesn't need a steak. She doesn't need more meat. She doesn't need more Elkanah. She has a baby problem. She has a barren womb. She has an issue. She has a struggle that Elkanah can do nothing about. Because God has called us to be fishers of men, not fixers of men. I love in the Bible, John chapter 21, verse something. They catch, the disciples catch the fish, and Jesus says, bring them to me. Bring the fish to me. Because I know what to do with them. I know the area in that person's life that is barren, that is broken, that is empty. And no meat, and no vacations, and no bigger houses, and no fancy cars can fix that issue that woman or that man is struggling with. And so don't get frustrated because what you're trying to give them isn't fixing the barrenness in that person's life. You're not a fixer. You're a fisher. Bring them to Jesus, because he could do what you could never do. Then I thought about all the Hannahs in the house. There's a lot of Hannahs in the house this morning that are broken. And I even thought, and I don't mean to hit a nerve, but I even thought on Mother's Day, all the women that aren't moms. And this can be kind of a bittersweet thing for a lot of people, where God has blessed you with so much to be thankful for, and yet there's that one area in your life that you have not seen fulfilled, and it hurts, and there's a struggle within you. And it's the emptiness and the brokenness that Hannah had in her life. She was empty. She was broken. And Hannah is getting all these choice things. All these people are blessing them, but it's like she can't even receive it. You ever try and pour into someone and love them and encourage them and you thank them, and then it's like they can't even receive it. It's like you're saying it, and then they complain that nobody, affirms them, or no one says they're doing a good job, and you're like, I told you last week. It's because you're leaking. It's what happens when you're broken. So many Hannahs are leaking. People are pouring into you. People are affirming you. And so many people, and maybe this is just me, but for men, I need people to tell me I'm doing a good job. I need my wife to tell me that I'm doing a good job as a husband. And I remember this one time, Diamond, we were going through this really hard time. It was right after my father passed away, and she looked at me and she said, I don't even know how to help you. What am I supposed to do? I feel like I can't hold you up. And I was like, you're not supposed to hold me up, honey. See, we think that we're the ones that are supposed to hold people up when they're going through valleys. No, that's God's job. It says in Isaiah that He is with me and He will uphold me. He will hold me in His righteous, victorious right hand. That's God's job. And I feel like God is trying to say to somebody who's trying to fix problems that are over your pay grade, I want my job back. Stop trying to hold other people up. And this is what I told them. Just walk beside me. Just walk with me. Just be with me. Just pray with me. Just cry with me. Just go through this with me. But don't ever feel the pressure that you're the one that has to hold me up during this time, because that's God's job. And God wants His job back in some of your lives. You think that you have to be the fixer. You have to be the Messiah for somebody else. And you're frustrated because they're still addicted. They're still broken. They're still not receiving or gotten any better. And you think that's an indictment on you, because you're not doing a good job as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as in the church body. That's on you. That's not on you. You just walk beside them. You just push them to Jesus. Like those four men, they brought their friend, they had him, he was lame, and they lowered him to Jesus. They tore the roof off, couldn't get in because of the crowd, tore the roof off, they lowered him down to Jesus. Because when people, the closer they get to Jesus, the further that they need to distance themselves from you, because you can't help them, only Jesus can. Yeah. And somebody needs to lower someone to Jesus this morning, because you can't fix that person any longer. Give them to Jesus. Stop condemning yourself because your child isn't getting it. Give them to Jesus. And then all the Hannahs that are struggling out there. You're empty. You're broken. You're hurting. And you get frustrated at other people because they're trying to give you what you do not need. They can't help. No steak's going to help my baby problem. My barrenness. And this is what I love about the Bible, is because Jesus has an answer for these questions that we have. If you're an alcoholic, the answer is not maybe give them a little alcohol just so they aren't fiending. Or if you're a drug addict, don't give them a little bit of that drug just to quench the hunger within them. The answer for someone who has an addiction to affirmation and an identity crisis, someone who has an addiction to approval of others, isn't to constantly affirm that person. Because it will never be enough for that person. Because they're leaking. They have a hole. So you could pour encouragement and pour love into that person, but it will never, ever, ever, ever be enough. What you need to do is find a better source of affirmation. A better source to be able to fix the hole and the brokenness in that person's life. I love the story. This guy, his name was 5 letters, starts with J. Jesus, that's right, that's his name. And he went on a trip with his disciples, stopped at this well, and there was this desperate housewife, leaking, broken, empty, hurting woman at the well. They don't even name her, she's just a woman at the well. And Jesus walks up to her. And she's saying, I got to come out here every single day to get more water. And some people, every single day, you can't even go through a day without somebody affirming you, telling you how great a job you're doing. It's like that's where you get your approval from. There's certain things that are never enough. And this woman thought that men was her fix, right? She was married 5 times, and now she was with number 6, living with number 6. And she thought that men would fix the brokenness in her. And so she tried one man, and that didn't work. Tried another man, that didn't work. Tried another man, and then another man, and it didn't work, because you cannot fill that gap, that void in you, whatever it may be, whether it's food or men or women, whatever that addiction is, whether it's pornography or alcohol. That answer is not, I got to get my fix and my fill, because you are leaking. Yeah. You have a hole in you. And this is what happens. Al, you bring up my little props. We didn't have a bucket, so I asked Jim if he had one, and the only thing he had was a Corona bucket. But we put tape over the Corona because we're in church. But I like to be transparent with you. I'm not trying to hide anything. And so, Al, I'm going to have you hold the microphone for me. And so this is where a lot of you guys are. Is you have a hole. And you try and fill that hole with the wrong stuff. And people try and love you and encourage you and tell you how great you're doing, but it's never enough. Right. It's never enough. Amen. And you get frustrated because you think that this is going to fulfill you. This is going to be what gives me pleasure and joy and happiness. And then you get it, and then it just leaks out the bottom. That this is where so many people are. Right here. And then they get so frustrated because they thought that was going to work. And now they still are empty. They're dry. They're barren. But Jesus says, you go to Ephesians chapter 1, verse 23, I'm going to read it to you. He says, I fill all in all. I complete you. See, a woman doesn't complete you. Jerry Maguire is a liar! The worst theology I ever heard, Jerry Maguire, you complete me. What kind of bull crap is that? Because that threw so many people, if I get that woman, if I get that man, they'll complete me. If I get that job, that'll complete me. And then you get it, and you're so empty, and you're so broken, and you get mad at that person that you thought was going to complete you, that you thought was going to fulfill you, but that person was never meant to complete you or fill you. That person was meant to serve a purpose, but it was not meant to fill the holes and the emptiness in your life. No person can complete you. No spouse can complete you. If you get married, you think that man or that woman is going to complete you. You are going to be so frustrated, and you're going to get angry at them. And you're going to take it out. You were supposed to help me. And the other person's like, you were supposed to help me. And we're both these leaking vessels because we have holes in us. And we can't fix each other. We need to find someone who doesn't have any holes. That doesn't have any gaps. That has an unconditional love for us that is so great and so wide and so unexplainable that we can run away like the prodigal son, and yet it chases after us. A love so deep that even when we forsake him, he chases after us. We just have to come an inch and he'll come a mile. That's who we need. And this woman at the well, I love it. She starts talking to Jesus. Man, I'm sorry. I'm getting excited because I found somebody. I found somebody that fills my leaks. And this woman at the well, she says, I'm searching. I come to this well every day. I'm searching. And Jesus says, I have water for you that you don't ever have to thirst again. It will be like a well within you. Because Jesus wants to dwell in you. Everywhere you go, he wants to fill you. And then at the very end, I love this. I think it's verse 23 or something. He says, you don't have to wait any longer or look any further. I am he. That's for somebody. You don't have to wait any longer or look any further. I am he. He fills all in all. He fills you. He completes you. So now, when people pour into you, I don't have to thirst again. I don't have to find my identity in other people. I don't have to find my affirmation and my worth in what other people say about me, telling me I'm doing a good job, telling me that they appreciate me. I don't need it. I found my well. I found my satisfaction. And it's not in people or things. It's in Jesus. I don't have to look any further. I don't have to wait any longer. I don't have to find a person to complete me. I just have to find a God who sent his only son down to earth to live a perfect life, fulfill all the prophecies, and die a sinless death for me, and he fills me. Yes. So now when other people, honey, you can take that, compliment me and say good things about me, thank you, I appreciate that. But that doesn't make me. That doesn't wake me up in the morning. Having have a post on Facebook that says, oh, look at this selfie I took, and I got 102 likes. Woo, man, I'm going to have a good day today. No, you don't need that anymore when you find someone who completes you. You don't need 100 likes to know that people care about you. You know that Jesus affirms you. Jesus gives you your identity. And now you can have, am I preaching? Is this okay? Yeah. Am I going too long? I'm almost done. I'm almost through. I got one more thing I want to share with you. One more thing, and then we're going to get out of here. You see this hammer right here? This serves a purpose, right? Right? That I could take a steak and I could drive that steak home with this nail. And then I could take a sip of my delicious mocha frappuccino after I'm done driving the steak in it, and I could enjoy and be refreshed by my delicious ice-cold beverage. But what if I took this glass bottle and I tried to drive, nothing, don't worry. I know I scare you people. But what if I took this and tried to drive the steak in with this? And I tried to drink out of the hammer? I would be disappointed in the hammer. Why aren't you fulfilling my thirst need, Hammer? And Mr. Hammer's like, I'm not supposed to, idiot. I'm a hammer. And then this would be shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. That's what so many people do with relationships. They think that relationship was there to drive in their identity, to drive in their security, to drive in their value and their worth. And they try and use the bottle to bang in the nail, and it ends up shattering in 1,000,000 pieces because it was never meant to serve that purpose. So many people, you have lost relationships. They have been shattered and broken because you thought that person was going to fulfill a different purpose in your life. That they were going to be the ones to fulfill you. And that really, I've shattered relationships because I had so much expectations for a person. Even in marriage, I remember when we first got married, we had all these expectations of what we thought, and then they didn't come to pass. And it's like you're frustrated. You were supposed to do this for me. You were supposed to be all I would ever need. No, she wasn't. She serves a purpose in my life, a big purpose, but it is not to complete me. I thought when I would have children that I would be so happy and everything would be great and I would be joyful and I would be complete when I have my 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and then I get a dog and it's just so perfect. Come on, folks. I know this is funny, but this is real. We actually think this stuff, that this is what will make us happy. But this is what Jesus does. He doesn't give us temporary gifts. We always want, I want to be happy. Happiness is a fleeting emotion. And if that's what you're chasing in your life, you will always be frustrated and angry. I'm not happy. You're not supposed to be happy. You're supposed to have eternal joy. That even in the midst of darkness, you have a faith and a security that because I know who my God is, and I know that I have purpose in my life, that I'm going to be okay through this season, that He's with me, that I can have peace in the midst of darkness. Eternal gifts is what God wants to give you this morning. Stand to your feet if you're able to. I hope this was okay for Mother's Day. I contemplated almost sitting on a stool and just kind of teaching, but you people get me crazy sometimes. This was for somebody. The Elkanahs. We're the fixers. Where are you? You're out there, so you're trying to fix people and you're frustrated. You're mad at them because they're not receiving what you're trying to pour in them. God wants to set you free from that this morning. You don't have to be a fixer, just be a fisher. Just point them to Jesus. Just bring them to Jesus. Just pray for them. Just walk beside them. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. Give God his job back. You can't complete them. And then for all the frustrated Hannahs out there, men included, and you're empty and you're broken and you thought that a girlfriend was going to fulfill that. You thought if you got this man that was going to fill the hole in you. That's what's lacking because everyone else that's married looks so happy. Sometimes. They're laughing because they're married and they know exactly what I'm talking about. No. People serve a purpose. Friends serve a purpose. But they don't ever take God's place. He fills all in all. He completes you. We're going to sing this last song. I just want to take a minute, 2 minutes to worship, and then we're going to dismiss in just a second. But I want you to have this moment where you think about the people that you need to release to God. That you need to God, I cannot fix this person. I'm getting frustrated trying to do it. I'm going to release them to you. I'll be there as a support. I'll walk beside them, but I cannot hold them up any longer. And all the Hannahs, and you're in here this morning, and you need affirmation. You thrive. Why are people telling me that I'm doing a good job? But they were never meant to fulfill that need in your life. The funny thing about affirmation is, the less you need it, the more you could actually receive it. That was good. When you don't need it, man, I could actually thank you. Man, that means a lot. Not about time. Be set free this morning. Let's sing this song. We're going to sing Holy Spirit. And just take a minute, 2 minutes. Just pray, talk to the Lord in your own words, and worship him in your own way.